Hi, everyone. Welcome to Transforming Teaching and Learning with Gemini with Designed for Learning. I will introduce myself a little bit more in a second, but my name is Molly Bennett and one of the co-owners of Designed for Learning. I am also here with my business partner, Lauren, if you want to say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Lauren's going to be in the chat today, so if you have any questions or anything, she'll be posting some links, a link to the slide deck and everything like that. So we would love to hear from you a little bit as well. In fact, if you want to just say hello in the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from, that would be awesome. Saying hello to people, that would be great. But we are going to just get started here. We're really excited to talk with you today about Gemini and Gemini for Google Workspace. So my name is Molly Bennett. I am an educator, have been a teacher for a long time, worked at the district office at a school district here in Minneapolis, and now have for the last, 12 or 13 years, been doing professional development for teachers, the adults as my classroom. So excited to be here today to share with you about what we are continuing to learn about Gemini and Gemini for Google Workspace. That said, I learned something new today as they just launched something else. So we're all trying to just kind of keep up with all the amazing new features, additions, changes to the world of AI. And we think that after this time with us today, hopefully you'll walk away with a little bit better understanding too of this world of Gemini. So for our agenda today, we are going to just talk about Google and AI in education and sort of their philosophy, their take on AI and how they're approaching sort of this new world we're living in. We'll talk about the free Gemini app that everybody has access to. And we'll talk a little bit about prompt engineering. So how to write good prompts. AI is as good as our questions or our prompts that we ask it. So we're going to talk just a little bit about the ways that we can best approach that. Helping teens study smarter. So we'll talk just a little bit about how Gemini is approaching teens and students' use of AI. And then we'll kind of go into NotebookLM, if you haven't seen that before, which is a kind of customized AI that you can create. And that might sound daunting to you, but it's actually really fascinating and cool. So we'll get into that. And then we'll talk a little bit about the paid Gemini for Google Workspace. So we'll showcase just a little bit about what does that look like with the paid product and how is it different. So we will get into that one, and then we'll just kind of talk a little bit more about how that can transform teaching and learning when you have Gemini for Google Workspace built into your suite that you are working with already. So an overview of Google's AI, the tools that we have for education, and a little bit of their philosophy. So Gemini has the same name, although it's Gemini the app and then Gemini for Google Workspace. So Gemini the app and NotebookLM are free. It is an app or a website that you open up and you interact with the AI in a way. So we're going to talk just a little bit about that. Hopefully you have a chance to try that as well. Then you have Gemini for Google Workspace, and that is paid. That just means that all of the AI features and all of that Gemini goodness is built into your Gmail, built into your docs, built into your slides. So instead of having to have another tab open and copying and pasting things from one place to the next, you have Gemini built into the tools that you're already using. So when we talk about things, we'll talk about the Gemini app, free, NotebookLM, free, and then we'll talk about Gemini for Google Workspace. When you have Gemini for Google Workspace, you also have NotebookLM Plus, which just gives you a couple added features within NotebookLM as we get there as well. So we'll try to kind of keep that language along the way as we go. So the Gemini app. The Gemini app is free to use, and its superpower is that it is safe. It's the safest AI for you to use as a teacher and the safest AI for your students to use. So if you go to gemini.google.com and you sign into your Google account, if you're at your school and in your school account, your domain administrator has to have this turned on. So there's the ability for your domain administrator or somebody in your tech department to turn on Gemini or to have it off. And you can even customize which people in your district have access to Gemini. So you could say only people 18 and above, only teachers, anybody 13 and above. So you have the ability to go in and really customize the different user groups that have access to Gemini. So if you go to gemini.google.com and you don't see anything, or it says it's not enabled for your domain, that's one of the issues. But if you go to gemini.google.com and you see this cool little chat box at the bottom, you'll know that you have Gemini within your Google Workspace. The prompt at the bottom, the little search box at the bottom, or the prompting box, the chat box, that's where we're going to add our prompt. That's where we're going to add our question. That's where we're going to tell AI what we would like it to do. So we'll have a chance to try that out in just a second. So again, this is free of charge. And the cool thing about using Gemini within your Google Workspace domain, or Gemini within your Google, your domain, is that it comes protected, and it is not using the information that you put into AI to teach any other language models. If you know about the language models, the way that they get smarter, the way that they learn a little bit more is by the prompts that we put into them. It sort of learns from itself. When you're using Gemini with your Google Workspace domain, the information that you're putting into the AI is not being used to teach future models. So it's the safest AI model that you can use, especially in a school system. So there's tons of added protection. It's a core service for all people. That means it's supported. It won't go down. Just like your Gmail and Docs, it has the option, the ability to go down, but this is really, it's going to be a core service. So they're very highly supporting it. It's also available in over 40 languages for educators right now, students 18 and older, and students, teenage students, or students that are 13 and above, that have a Google account can also access Gemini app if it's turned on. So you have the ability to do that. So again, we've got the free of charge, we've got the paid version, but it is a core service under the education terms of service. So that means it's safe for you to use, it's safe for the students to use, it's not teaching any other language models. So it's got a lot of data protection. Google is taking the safe road versus the fast road. So that matters, especially when you're talking about student data, privacy, things like that as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about prompt engineering. So how do we write a great question, a great prompt in order for us to get what we want out of Gemini? So one of the things that we've talked a little bit about is question asking and prompt engineering. It's a little bit of the same thing, but you really want to make sure that you're asking AI to do what you want it to do. And they've come up with a couple different, ways that you can think about ways to write a good prompt. But the Google term that they're using right now is called parts. So we're asking AI to act in all of these ways. So the P stands for persona. So identify your role. Tell AI who you want it to be. A 6th grade language arts teacher, an elementary school principal, a 5th grade teacher. So give it who you want it to be. Then what's the aim? State your objective. What do you want as your outcome? Act as a 1st grade teacher who's teaching about the life cycle of a butterfly. And we'll get into the life cycle of a butterfly a lot today. That's what my little 1st grader is learning about. So we're sort of on that topic here at the house. Then specify the audience. So for my 1st grade students, for the families of my class, so think about who is going to be receiving the information. A theme, so what style, tone, any related parameters. Do you want it to be a song? Do you want it to be, do you want it to be a newsletter? Which way? And then also the structure, so the format. So do you want bullet points? Do you want it to be in code? Do you want it to include emojis? So thinking about those things helps us get to a place where we can write a good prompt. So what I'd like you to do right now is open up gemini.google.com. And when we get to gemini.google.com, you should see, and mine is a little bit small, I know, at the bottom here, I have, it says enter a prompt for Gemini. So hopefully you have yours open, and we can start with just writing a couple prompts and see what AI spits out for us. So I'm going to say act as a first grade teacher and provide information about the life cycle of a butterfly for my first grade students. Include some movement and a craft idea. Instead of provide information, I'm going to just change this really quick. A 3-day lesson plan. So I'm going to act as a teacher, act as a first grade teacher, provide a 3-day lesson plan about the life cycle of a butterfly for my first grade students, includes the movement and a craft idea. So I'm going to just push enter, and we're going to just sort of see what happens. So it says, hello there, my bright little learners. Get ready to flutter into the fascinating world of butterflies. So it has taken on the persona of how would I talk to my first grade students. So here is day 1, tiny eggs and hungry caterpillars. The learning time, here's the craft. We're going to do leaf rubbings, and then we're going to wrap up. Day 2 is caterpillar to chrysalis. Day 3 is a beautiful butterfly emerges, and we have a wrap up here too. So this is just the ability for us to like write that prompt, tell it what we want it to do, tell it what it wants to spit out. So why don't you try that right now and just sort of see what comes out for you. It could be a lesson plan idea. I'm going to even continue with my chat here with Gemini and say, please create a song that my first grade students can learn about vocabulary related to the life cycle of a butterfly. So now it's going to even spit out a song. So here's verse 1, tiny egg, so small and round, on a leaf it can be found. Mom butterfly says, rest so tight, waiting for a brand new sight. So we could even sing this song with the kids and kind of add some movement to that as well. So once you've entered that first prompt, you can continue to refine it. You could even ask it to elaborate, to summarize, to make it a little bit less formal, to make it more formal. A lot of the times when I write something now and I go, oh, that's what I want to say, but it just doesn't sound well, I'll come and paste it into Gemini and also say, can you rewrite this? Can you make this more formal? Can you kind of summarize what I'm trying to say here? So this is prompt engineering and how you can start just writing in the Gemini app, and it will pop out what you need it to be. Now, over on the left side of your Gemini, you'll see that you always have this plus sign. And now I have my additional chat. So it saves each chat as its own instance or its own kind of token, as you will. So sometimes with AI and the free versions of things, you're only going to have a certain amount of tokens or times that you can enter things. That really only gets to a couple of the bigger features here. So if you use it, and you're not gonna overuse it. So that's on the left-hand side there, and that is how we start writing with our prompt engineering. So hopefully you had the chance to do that. Prompt engineering is really amazing. Like, pretend you're a really busy mom of 2 kids and you only have 20 minutes to make an after-school snack that's related to the life cycle of a butterfly. See what it says. So there's really magical things that you can kind of get creative with AI by asking it. So here's another example. I am a blank. State your aim, describe the structure. I'm a middle school history teacher, design an engaging classroom activity for 8th grade students about creating collaborative digital timeline. The activity should incorporate storytelling and technology. The time allotment is 3 to 4 class periods. Format this as an outline. So you can see the more detailed that you get, the better output you're going to get when you get into your Gemini responses. So when we talk about helping students study with Gemini, so now we're flipping the coin. A lot of AI, we're talking about teacher productivity, differentiation, personalization, efficiency. But if that's the only conversation we're having about AI, we're missing out. So in the next couple slides, we'll just talk a little bit about how students could start using it. And I saw some pretty fascinating things that happened today, and I might just show you one quick too. So when we talk about Gemini for teen students, first of all, when they log into Gemini, they're going to be presented with a little AI literacy. What is AI? What do I need to know? Sometimes AI is wrong. I still need to be the human component in this. I need to look for these hallucinations when AI gets completely wrong. But really what it does is it talks about this AI literacy that we all need to know about too. But then students are going to be able to go in and use it for different ideas and things that they might need. So for example, if you're going into a test on a specific subject, you could ask Gemini to create 8 quiz questions and walk you through the answers. You could post your paper that you're writing on, the reflection or the compare contrast of, something that you're writing, and ask it for feedback on your writing. You kind of start talking a little bit about just getting into, okay, when do we use AI? When is it appropriate? When is it okay? And I think that as teachers, we need to start thinking about the different ways that we're presenting ideas and activities and assignments to students. And then also letting them know, like, is this okay to use AI? Is this not okay? I just recently heard kind of an interesting explanation of kind of the Oreo effect, where yes, use AI to start brainstorming some ideas that you might not have ever had about your project or your topic or your paper. The human component, you're the middle. You're the person that's putting in all the stuff, the details. You're doing the writing, the drafting, but then you use AI to help you refine it as well. And so I think that's what students are able to do as well. So you really want to kind of help the students create this like good, responsible use of AI. And when you're thinking about that, the Gemini team experience is the safest one out there by far. Google is taking a safety first approach with everything. Common Sense Education has deemed it, very useful. Connect Safely, Family Online Safety Institute. So lots of really great things about using Gemini with teens, excuse me. So when you think about the day in the life of a student, here's some just ideas of how they could use the free app. Deepen understanding. She completes the assigned reading for the physics class, but she's still struggling with a new concept. She asks for help. Can you explain it to me as if I was a first grade student? And so you could go in there and really ask it to explain something better. Getting feedback on your work, what we're talking about, maybe giving a contrasting view, maybe seeing for things that you missed. Creating practice materials. If you have a quiz or if you have a test coming up, asking it to quiz yourself, asking it to create a study guide, asking it to create an outline for you. Brainstorming and research, which is what we just sort of talked about. Like, hey, give me some ideas of ways that I haven't, that I could blankety blank. So using it as a thought partner is something that you can do as well. I'm going to just show you one really quick thing that I saw today that I thought was pretty interesting. So when you go to Gemini, in your Gemini app, you're up in the corner and you have these kind of different versions that they're playing with right now, kind of the beta version. So I went into this 2.5 Pro experimental. And I went in and I said, create a quiz on the life cycle of a butterfly. And what it's doing here, I'm hoping, so it's doing this JavaScript. It's actually doing code. It's writing it in real time. And it's kind of creating an interactive experience that looks a lot better than just sort of a text experience. So it does take just a little bit of time here. So I'm going to just pop over here and see if it will show me the one that it did. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So it's this beautiful experience now. And I didn't tell it the correct answers on any of the questions or anything, but because it's AI, it knows. So here, what's the first stage in a butterfly's life cycle? The pupa, the egg, the caterpillar, the adult. So let's just go into egg. We'll submit our answer. I didn't create this quiz. I didn't give it the correct answers. By just my one prompt of create a quiz on the life cycle of a butterfly, it's created this practice assignment for us. So what emerges from the butterfly egg? Let's go. Let me just see if I can do a correct one. Okay, so it's even going to give you the information or the correct answer that you can go back. I guess I can't go back. Next question. So anyways, this is kind of an interesting thing that you could think about the teens and the ways that they could prepare themselves for, different exams or different things that they're studying as well. So that's in the Gemini Advanced 2.5. And it sounds like somebody else was playing with that a little bit as well, which was kind of fun. That was the new thing that I learned today. All right, chatting with a historical figure. So you can also, because you tell AI who to be, you could go in and say, hey, just like this one, can you explain how gravity works in the voice of Albert Einstein? Can you answer the following questions as if you were, this person in history? There are ways sometimes that AI is wrong doing this. There is bias that is not presented. There are perspectives that are not given. So AI is not a human. AI is not perfect. And so there is always the human component and always the human element that we need to think about when we are even asking AI to engage as different people, to keep that in there. So, but kind of an interesting thing to start thinking about the ways that students could interact with AI in that way too. And then students can collaborate with Gemini using Canvas. So Canvas is a little bit interesting to think about. So if we go into Gemini, and I'm just going to go into a new chat. I'm actually going to just go into my 2.0 advanced. So down here in your prompt box, you have something called deep research and you have something called Canvas. Canvas is almost like creating your own chat experience based on some sort of information. So one thing that I did was I went and I asked Gemini to create information that my first graders would need about the life cycle of a butterfly, and then I copied and pasted it and put it into a PDF. So if I went into Canvas and now I'm going to add a couple files or YouTube videos or links or things that I can go into. Let's see if it's in my downloads here. Life cycle of a butterfly. I can also then just write a prompt and it's going to look in that. So I could ask it questions about that. So if you have curriculums, if you have your state standards, if you have any information that came to you in like reports, student information, you could upload it to Canvas. And now I'm chatting with Gemini about these specific resources. It's very similar to NotebookLM as well. But students could go in there and add their lecture notes, any materials that the teacher has handed out, a question and a study guide, and then be able to interact with just those files to really study specifically for what that teacher had and what that assignment was. Okay, so that's what Canvas is. I think I have a lot more to play with with Canvas, not Canva. That's very similar. And then there's also a learning management system called Canvas too. So we're kind of overlapping a couple terms here then too. And this is available for Gemini for all Workspace education users in 13 plus. So it is something that you could continue to use and look at with your students as well. And then GEMS. So GEMS is another thing that's free to use with everybody. And GEMS is almost like a coach, or, I kind of think of like a therapist or somebody who's going to like ask you questions back in order to help you refine your thinking. So because we go to AI and we ask it questions, or we tell it prompts or tell it what to be, these GEMS are going to kind of ask us questions to help get us to the right prompt. So when you are in Gemini, over on the left-hand side, there's something called the Gem Manager, but also here are our gems. We have the Brainstormer, the Sales Pitch Ideator, Canvas Create Data Dashboard. We've got a career guide. So maybe you're thinking about going into a specific career. Okay, so the career guide's going to go in here. It said, I'd like to improve my presentation skills. Help me figure out how to advocate with my manager. Give me advice on how to find a mentor. And so it's also going to kind of get you, give you some prompts that you could start thinking about to be with that coach. So fix grammatical errors, edit this for specific style, rewrite the sentences to be clear. So it's AI, but for specific audiences or specific tasks that you want it to create. You can even create your own gems as well, but you could start using some of these and the students could use those as well. And then let's just see where else we're going to go. This is all, again, under the Gemini app. It's completely free. So interactive quizzes, I showed you sort of the Gemini advanced feature of that. Obviously, you can just go into text, so quiz me on the periodic table of elements, and then it can also provide feedback based on answers that you give that are correct or incorrect. All right, so audio overviews. Audio overviews are this really cool thing that used to just exist in NotebookLM, but has now been brought into just the Gemini experience. It's free for anybody. So in Gemini, I am going to just go to a new chat, and I am going to just add a file. I'm going to add that same file that I had on the life cycle of a butterfly. So I'm going to go into files, and I'm going to go to the life cycle of a butterfly. Now, this is just a PDF of material that Gemini created on information about a butterfly. I said for first grade students. I think the audio overview doesn't necessarily always pertain to the grade level that it is. But what the audio overview is, it takes your information and it shares the information in a whole new language or in a whole new model. It's a podcast between two podcast hosts that are discussing your information specifically. So I'm just going to say generate this audio. We'll come back to this in just a second because sometimes it just takes a little bit. It says, I'll let you know when it's ready in a few minutes. You can leave this chat in the meantime. So another example of this was maybe you ask students an exit ticket. Maybe you ask for what do you know about a certain material, or what did you learn about something else? What about you go on a field trip, you put together a Google form, you ask people to share one thing that they've learned. You can just come in and put that information in here and then just have an audio experience for the kids to listen to as if it was a podcast. So we'll come back to this one and you'll be able to see, unless I can even just go to one that I was playing with today. Oops. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I hope you can hear this. Lauren, give me a little nod if not.
Welcome to the
Wait, I could hear it and then now I can't.
Okay. Okay. Well, you get the idea that it's right in Gemini. You can get these audio interviews in one, I think it was NotebookLM. And maybe we'll get there in just a second. We don't have a ton of time, but in NotebookLM, if you're using the audio interview, you can join the conversation and ask a new question, and the podcast host will respond to your updated question that you've just given. So that was kind of fascinating to see that how the students could then even start thinking about how they could participate within that podcast, or as if those two people were actually people in your classroom that were sharing this new information. So audio overviews are now included within the Gemini app, free for everyone as well. It just depends on how you get that information into Gemini in order for it to start chatting. So NotebookLM, I feel like maybe feels like that sort of experimental space that now they're moving some of the things from NotebookLM right into Gemini. But NotebookLM is a really cool space, and I have the paid Gemini, so I have NotebookLM Plus, which just gives me a few features like being able to share my notebook with other people, being able to collaborate on my notebook with other people. But if we go in and if we just go to create a new notebook, what it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, give me some sources. What's my information? YouTube videos, PDFs, Google Docs, websites. So all of these are different things that you could upload, okay, into your notebook. And once you have all of those sources uploaded, I'm just going to go into Kids Community Helpers. This is a specific AI chat experience and creation experience on just the sources that you add. So it's not using the language model from outside. It's just using your sources that you put in. So I was trying to think again, elementary community helpers. And so I found a couple YouTube videos. What's a firefighter? I found some stuff. And so now I could start typing a specific question like create a 3-day lesson plan just based on this material. What range of jobs do community helpers have? Again, you're going to see over here this audio overview. So now I could generate a podcast that my kids could learn about community helpers. But over here are some pretty interesting things that you can create just by the click of a button. So you've got study guides, an FAQ, a briefing doc, a timeline. So it actually creates new materials for you based on this. So if you're thinking about grad school research and you've got all of these sources and materials, you could go in here and create a briefing doc. If you've got your strategic plan, the tech plan, the AI literacy, permission stuff that you've developed for your school, and then you could come in and just sort of like say, create the briefing for the families on, what are the highlights of this. So you add the sources, then you can chat with AI and get some information, and then it will also create new things for you. It's pretty fascinating as a notebook. When you have the NotebookLM Plus, you can collaborate on a notebook with other people. I can share a notebook with other colleagues or people, and they could work and chat and use it in different capacities too. So there's some pretty fascinating things that you can do using NotebookLM. A couple examples that we have here. AI grounded information, extra data protection, listen and learn with audio views. The difference between the free NotebookLM and the paid NotebookLM, you can have more audio overviews, you can customize the style and the length, you have additional privacy, and you can create shared notebooks for your team. You also get analytics of the ways that people are using the NotebookLM, so that's kind of interesting as well. Okay, so we kind of went through all of those. And that might even have a little bit. So if you want to go to NotebookLM, you go to notebooklm.google.com. You click on the Create New button. If you happen to have a couple sources, PDFs, links, texts, anything like that, you can ask a question in the space. You can also create the audio overview or ask it to create a briefing doc or an FAQ or anything that you wanted as well. And you could go from there. So that is NotebookLM. Deep breath. So we've talked about the Gemini app. We've talked about everything that I've talked to up till now has been free, other than those little bitty paid features of NotebookLM Plus. And now we're going to go into the paid features of Gemini for Google Workspace. So all the power of Gemini is now able to be built into your Workspace suite, into slides, help me visualize, into sheets, help me organize, into docs, help me write. So lots of different ways that we can use the Gemini right within our Google Workspace. So these again are the paid features. In order for you to get in here, you can access Gemini across the Workspace app. You get a Gemini Advanced experience and you get NotebookLM Plus. Okay, so these are all the different ways that Gemini for Google Workspace can help you write, visualize, plan, create. Oh, I forgot even just all the stuff in Google Classroom that it does, which is really, we'll spend some time in there too. So the Gemini suite within Google Classroom is awesome and just getting better every day. So if you care about compliance, if you're one of those people that has to be in charge of compliance and know what everything does and how safe it is, Gemini for Google Workspace is US, international, European compliant with all of the best standards that we have as far as internet safety and data protection. So know that this is the safest one that you can have. All right. So the first one is Gemini and Google Docs. And in Gemini and Google Docs, you have the ability to have that Gemini experience built right into your doc. So whenever you're if you have Gemini for Google Workspace, you'll have that little pencil with the magic dust, the fairy dust on it. And that's going to share with you like, hey, pay attention. There's something AI that's here. So in Google Docs specifically, it's going to help you write. So it's going to open up a chat feature right on top of your Google Doc. And you're going to be able to see it as like an overlay, and you're going to be able to refine it or elaborate on it based on what you would like. So I'm going to just pop into an account here that has Gemini for Google Workspace. I just went into my Google Doc. You can see here there's even something called Generate a Document, which I have actually been having some fun with this one. I asked it to create a meal plan for the week, and it created something. You can create an outline. So when you think about generate a document, not only is it going to help you write, but it's just going to say, I could say create a science observation notebook for my first grade students to study the life cycle of a butterfly. All right, so it's going to transform my blank page as instead of me making all the tables and the charts and doing the dates and all that kind of stuff. I actually have never tried this one. But in just a little bit of time, hopefully it won't take too long, we've got a beautiful observation doc that I could either get to my kids digitally. I could print it out for my little first graders. So it's got the date, the time, what did you see, draw a picture, day 7 observation log, day 14, day 21. So, and saying goodbye. Oh, that's so sweet. So the way that it can just generate a document for you is actually pretty fascinating too. So, but what I could do now that I'm in a Google Doc, I of course can come in here and I see that I have my little magic by here too. And I could say, write a quick song about the life cycle of a butterfly for my first grade students to learn. Okay, so then I just go and I insert it in here. So you've got that Gemini built into your Google Docs experience. I'm going to go into sheets.new. So when you're in Google Sheets, Gemini has a little bit of a different experience. And this is, of course, the paid Gemini for Google Workspace. And Google Sheets is taken a little bit different. But when you access Gemini, it's up here in the top right-hand corner. And what it opens is actually a sidebar that you can interact with, which means that you could even interact with more than just this Google Sheet, but you could link to other Google Slides presentations or Google Docs that you wanted to use too. It's always going to prompt you of what can Gemini do, create a table, create a table to manage a call center. So I'm going to say create a rubric for my first grade class, for my first grade students' observation notebooks on the life cycle of a butterfly. That is not my best prompt that I've ever written, but let's see if it will create a rubric for me. Accuracy of drawings, written observation, organization, effort and engagement. And again, it's sort of a little bit like a transparency that just goes over the spreadsheet. So I can change everything even when I click insert. So now I have everything that I could go in and I could change too. But now I have a little rubric that I could use to sort of assess the students in the ways that they are, observing their butterfly and caterpillars along the way. So Gemini and Google Sheets can also help you with formulas. It can help you create graphs. You can ask it real human questions about the data that you have inside of a spreadsheet, and it will help you get to that analyzation that you need as well. So that's in Sheets. So now I'm going to go to slides.new. And in Google Slides, what it's asking, or what Gemini can help us to do is two things. It helps us visualize. So the first thing that we can do is over here on the side, again, we see this little magic button, and this is generate an image. So when I am going to go in, I'm going to say create an image that shows the life cycle of a butterfly for first grade students. Okay, you can add a style to make it, sketch, watercolor. I'm feeling lucky. I said no style. That's fine. We'll just go into create. You can get really creative. Like my student, or this one project we were working on, we were talking about this. The students wrote, using AI, a story about a pig and a dog on an adventure in New York City. And so we asked it to create a picture of a dog and a pig on an adventure in New York City. So that's not something we would have found, on our own. When we get to images like this and we ask it to label and we're asking for sort of scientific stuff, pay close attention. Sometimes the image is beautiful and like everything's labeled incorrectly or whatever. So AI is not perfect. It has hallucinations. We are the human component that makes it really important. So here we've got the egg, chrysalis, the twirl, and the ram. Okay, that's interesting. So we've got that one. We've got another one that we could put in here. This one, obviously, the labeling kind of got off a little bit. So You could just kind of go in and you really kind of take a look at the different things. So here is the caterpillar, but the chrysalis is inserted, is not in the correct spot. So play with it. Okay, maybe a little less scientific kinds of illustrations or fun graphics could be a little bit more fun. The other thing that Google Slides can do too is if you go into this little feature over here, the little Gemini, you can barely see that, I bet, or into the sidebar, you can ask it to create an entire slide for you. So I could say, create a slide to welcome my first grade students into the classroom and include a few pictures of butterflies. And then it's going to actually create an entire slide for me as opposed to just an image that's going to go in there. Let's see if it, oh, here's some images. So this was more of an image than it was a slide. Okay, so let's just put that in there, but let's just see if we can do this a little bit better. So let's give it a little bit more information to go in there. Maybe I need to go over here today because maybe that's just that. Create a slide about the best outdoor activities in San Francisco. Create a slide about the life cycle of a butterfly. So now it's going to actually, instead of just doing the images, I think it's going to create actually bullet points and titles and all sorts of things like that. So, dun, dun, dun. All right, so here's the butterfly's journey. It has a beautiful picture: egg, larva, pupa, adult butterfly, reproduction. We could go in and do that. Of course, I didn't tell it for first grade or anything like that, so it just chose the reading level and things like that. So anywho, that's in Slides. In Gmail, you've got a couple different features. One of them just being productivity suite of help me write. So if I go into Compose and I'm writing a new email, I've got the little help me write icon, write a letter to the first grade families, sharing that we have learned all about the life cycle of a butterfly and include 3 questions they could ask their child at home this weekend. Okay, so instead of having to even do that, I'm letting it be my thought partner. I'm letting it draft the whole thing. Dear first grade families, blah, blah, blah. What are the things? What are the 4 stages of a butterfly's life? Insert that into it. I can change it. I can refine it. So I could make it, I could elaborate on it. I could say that's not much. They are used to a little bit more. Recreate the entire thing. Again, we can just change it whatever we want to in there too. So that's in Gmail. In Classroom, in the paid Gemini for Google Workspace, we have a whole Gemini for Education new button over here under the Resources tab. And these are the, what used to be 5 and are now 6 different features of things that you can do within Gemini in Classroom. So the first one is outline a lesson plan. So a lot of what we did in the Gemini app, it's just going to walk us through some prompt engineering. So I'll do that one with you because then we'll also show you how it could generate a quiz, relevel text, create a compelling hook, create a vocabulary list, or generate text-dependent questions. So I'm just going to start with outline a lesson plan. We're going to switch it up here and get away from our butterfly. I'm going to say grade 5. The 2 lesson plan templates they have is sort of the general lesson plan or the 5E lesson plan. We'll keep general right now. We're going to say describe the topic and standards. So it already knows that it's 5th grade. We're going to say the causes of the American Revolution. Now, what I like about this is it says generate the learning objectives. So it's giving you sort of this we'll be able to do this. All right, so we're going to go in We're going to generate the learning objectives again. We might pivot on this one. Okay, so here it is. So what it does is it gives us the learning objectives so we can refine those before it actually creates the lesson. So it's sort of asking, like, is this the purpose of your conversation? Like, is this the purpose of your lesson? Is this what you want to do with the students? Then you can even describe your class. You could say they lower reading level for 5th grade students. Okay, so it's going to generate a lesson plan. Again, we didn't talk about how long we want it to be. We didn't talk about how many lessons, days, or periods, or things like that. But what it has is it's got help my students learn about the causes of the American Revolution. Here's the materials, the preparation, the common misconceptions. Here's activities, some differentiation, teacher responses, activities, assessments, and exit ticket. But what I love is at the bottom, it's like create more hooks, or do you want to just quick generate a quiz? So maybe I want to do a pre-assessment. What do they already know about this? And then I can use the same one as the post-assessment. So I can just go in here and from this information, click generate quiz. It's going to say, okay, is this still what we're doing? What kinds of questions do you want? So I'm going to go multiple choice and short answer. You can choose two. Let's see what's happening here. Oh, we're going to go into here. This is fine. Multiple choice and short answer. And we're going to generate the questions. So it creates something that looks very similar to another Google product, which is Google Forms. So one thing that it's done is, number one, it's gone in and created the questions, and it's also provided the correct answers. So instead of going in and creating that Google form, having to turn it into quiz mode, going back behind the scenes and choosing the correct answers, it's already in there. Of course, as the 5th grade teacher, I should go through and I should double check to make sure that those are in fact the correct answers, that I like the questions, all of that. But I can export it to Google Forms in order to make any edits or changes. So this now is going to take it right from Google Classroom and put it into Google Forms so that I can do any of the edits and the changes that I want to as well. So it only has, there's 3 questions on there. So that's fine. So we could go in, we could edit it. We could change, go into the responses. We could go in making it a quiz and kind of change any of those correct answers as well. The other thing that it did at the bottom of the lesson plan, and I'll go back to the lesson here in Google Classroom, is it could create a hook. So once you have that lesson designed, you could say, okay, I want to spark curiosity. I don't know why it's asking me if I want to discard all of that. And I want to do gamification. And then I could generate the hook, and it's actually going to create just a couple ideas like, hey, I got to school today, I barely had enough time for my coffee. I have no idea how I'm going to catch everybody's attention. We're talking about this, Google Classroom, a hook. Here are these different kinds of things. I wouldn't have thought about these before. And so let's see how we could play that into the classroom today. So the other things that are in Google Classroom using Gemini for Google Workspace is you can re-level a text. So if you had one specific reader that was, higher reading level, lower reading level, you had one text that you needed to use, you can just come in and copy and paste any text within there, which is great. You can also create a vocabulary list. So again, we can go into 1st grade. We're going to say life cycle of a butterfly. Generate this. And then it's automatically going to create, just some things that we can do, and you can export this quickly to docs. So I do love how it's kind of giving you the information, and then it's saying, okay, if we're going to edit this or anything, let's put it into a Google Doc. It automatically names that Google Doc for us. It allows us to be able to edit, change it, things like that. So there's one more within the Gemini for Education, and this is brand new, and this is generate text-dependent questions. So based on any text, generate questions as an exit ticket formal assessment. So it's almost using some of that Canvas type thing where it's like, I'm going to add my curriculum, I'm going to add my study guide, I'm going to add my notes, and then it's going to generate questions just totally based on that text. So that is kind of interesting there as well. So So I think we went through most of those. Again, those are the paid features. So we went through Gemini and Google Docs, in Gmail, in Google Slides, which allows you to create images or actually just the slide. We went into Gemini and Google Sheets. The side panel productivity really does allow you to start using Gemini across all of your apps, across Drive, across your entire Google Workspace domain. So you could start referencing different docs and different presentations and asking it to summarize things as well. That side panel can also help you like analyze or summarize information, summarize emails so that you create a to-do list based on your inbox, things like that. It automatically works for you across kind of a lot of your Google Workspace suite. So in the last couple minutes, just making learning more personal using Gemini for Google Workspace, just some ideas. So copying and paste, or not copying and pasting, but if you're in Google Docs and your assignment for your students is in Google Docs, you have that help me write button in their Google Doc where you could say, look at the response above and give me some feedback that I could provide to this student. So it's giving you that customized, tailored feedback. Of course, as the teacher, you're going to look through that and you're going to see, whether you agree. Gemini is a magical translator too, which we just don't even think about, but we can ask it to translate anything that we want to. So thinking about the different ways that our language learners could interact with using Gemini for Google Workspace, or the ways that we could personalize and differentiate material based on the learners in our classroom too. So that's really awesome. In Gemini and Google Classroom, we talked about the different ways that you can do that, and it helps you with the lesson plan prompting, releveling text, creating compelling hook, quickly create quizzes, and build vocabulary lists. So I know Lindy has been very, very active with us too, and so lots of learning along with us as well. If anybody else has any questions of things that they wanted to share, feel free. But even in the chat, if you want to think about a way that, you could use one of the things that we've learned, half of the presentation today was on all the free things that you can use with Gemini too. So even if you don't have the paid Google Workspace, Gemini for Google Workspace, you still have access to a lot of amazing tools using AI. And then if you have that too, obviously we would love your feedback and would love to hear just a little bit from you. So if you could answer, I think Lauren's going to post the link to the eval or customer feed or just feedback from you. That would be fantastic. And please, at Designed for Learning, we work with lots of schools and districts in order to help provide this kind of training for teachers on the free Gemini app, Gemini for Google Workspace, or anything in between. So we would love to work with you and continue your AI literacy journey and just all the ways that we can use it to work, teach, and learn differently. So thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you next time.